She said my name like it was a question, soft, drawn out, like she wasn't sure she should be saying it at all. Can you help me with these? Just groceries. Just a normal Saturday. But her voice made the air shift, like something fragile had cracked open between us. I stepped out to meet her at the car, the late afternoon sun catching in her hair. She was still in her work clothes, a pale blouse, sleeves rolled to her elbows, collar open just enough to show the soft edge of her throat. There were 2 paper bags in her arms, and she could have carried them fine. She didn't really need my help. Still, I took them from her hands. Our fingers brushed for half a second, warm skin, quick breath, and I swear she froze, just barely. Then she looked away, blinking too long, pretending to fix her sleeve. Inside, the house felt heavier than usual. Quiet except for the hum of the fridge. Dust caught the late light through the kitchen window, turning it gold. She walked ahead of me, that careful way she always did, measured, composed, but never fully relaxed. "You've been studying?" she asked, her back still to me. "Trying to," I said. "It's hard to focus." She opened a cabinet, reached up, then hesitated. "Distractions?" The word lingered. She didn't turn around. I watched the hem of her blouse move slightly with her breathing. "I guess you could say that." That made her smile, just a flicker, caught in the reflection of the microwave door. I wasn't supposed to notice her like that. I wasn't supposed to memorize the way her shoulders tensed when she laughed, or how she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear when she was thinking. But I did. I noticed everything. She handed me a carton of milk, and when I reached for it, our fingers touched again, longer this time. Neither of us moved. "You've been quiet lately," she said. "So have you." That got her attention. She finally looked at me, really looked, and something unspoken passed between us. A question neither of us wanted to answer. Her eyes, that's what undid me. They held too much. Tiredness, maybe. Or something she was trying to hide. She looked away first. "I'm fine." "Sure," I said, even though neither of us believed it. We stood there in silence, the refrigerator humming too loud. She leaned against the counter, crossed her arms, and I could feel her watching me from the corner of her eye. The moment stretched, that kind of silence where words would ruin everything. I could smell the faint trace of her perfume, something floral and steady, like she wore it out of habit, not vanity. "Thank you," she said finally. "For helping." "It's just groceries," I said. "I know." She smiled again, small and sad. Her hand brushed the counter, close to mine, not quite touching. "I can handle the rest," she said. But she didn't move. I waited. She didn't finish the sentence that wanted to follow. Outside, a car door slammed. The sound jolted her, made her step back like she'd been caught doing something wrong. "Your dad's home early," she said, voice a little too quick, eyes flicking toward the hallway. And then she turned, slow, deliberate, and before walking away, her hand brushed mine one last time. Accidental. Maybe. But I could still feel it long after she'd gone down the hall. And for the first time, I realized that what was between us wasn't imagined. It was real. Too real. And there was no way to unfeel it now. The next morning, she was in the kitchen again, same robe, same quiet hum in her voice as she rinsed coffee mugs in the sink. I hesitated in the doorway. There was something about mornings with her, soft light, the sound of water running, the smell of coffee that somehow felt more like her than the drink itself. She didn't look up right away. "You're up early," she said. "Couldn't sleep," I answered. "Thinking about something?" I almost laughed. "Someone." But I said nothing. She finally turned, drying her hands on a towel. The robe slipped slightly off one shoulder, not on purpose, just gravity and carelessness, and she tugged it back with a small, embarrassed laugh. "Your dad's out for the weekend," she said. "Business trip." "Oh." I tried to sound casual. "So it's just us." That made her pause. The towel twisted in her hands. She didn't meet my eyes. "I suppose so," she said quietly. The silence that followed wasn't heavy, it was alive, buzzing between us. I could feel the warmth of her, even from across the counter. She poured another cup of coffee and slid it toward me. You still take it black? I nodded. You remember that? I remember small things, she said. Her tone was light, but her eyes weren't. They tend to stick. Later, we found ourselves in the living room, sorting through boxes she'd been meaning to unpack for months. Photos, old letters, bits of her life before she married my father. Who's this? I asked, holding up a faded picture, her, maybe in her 20s, laughing beside a man who wasn't my dad. She took it gently, her fingers brushing mine. That was a long time ago, she said. You looked happy. I was. For a while. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Life changes. I watched her study the photo for a second too long. Something about the way she looked at it, like she was remembering a version of herself she couldn't return to. Do you ever miss it? I asked. She hesitated. Sometimes. Mostly, I just miss who I was back then. That hit harder than I expected. She set the picture down carefully, her hand lingering on it like it might break. You're still, I started, but stopped myself. Still what? I shook my head. Never mind. Her gaze held me there. Say it. I couldn't. My throat felt too tight. Instead, I reached for another box, but my hand brushed her knee. She didn't move. For a second, the world narrowed to that one point of contact, skin against skin, both of us pretending not to notice. Then she exhaled, slow and careful. You shouldn't look at me like that, she said. Like what? Like you see something you shouldn't. Her words should have cooled the air between us. But they didn't. She reached out, fixed the collar of my shirt, her fingers lingering an extra heartbeat. Then she stepped back. You should get some rest, she said, but her voice wasn't steady. I nodded, though neither of us moved. The air between us pulsed, charged, fragile. And when she finally turned away, I saw her hand tremble just slightly as she touched the photo again. The rain started in the late afternoon, heavy, steady, the kind that swallows sound. She was at the window when I came downstairs, one hand pressed to the glass, watching the street vanish behind the blur. Storm came out of nowhere, she said without turning. Yeah. I moved closer, drawn in by something that wasn't the weather. She didn't step away. The soft reflection of her face in the window looked younger, somehow tired, but lit from within. Your dad called, she said. His flight's delayed. Maybe tomorrow. I tried not to react, but she must have heard the shift in my breathing. You look relieved, she said, glancing at me through the reflection. I didn't say anything. You didn't have to. The thunder rolled low and slow. The lights flickered, then went out. The sudden dark left only the sound of rain and her quiet inhale. Well, she whispered, that's inconvenient. I found the flashlight in a drawer, clicked it on. The beam caught her face, soft shadows across her cheekbones, her eyes catching the light like something alive. Here, I said, handing it to her. Our fingers met again. I didn't pull back. Neither did she. Thank you, she murmured, voice barely there. We stood too close. The air felt thick, not just with heat, but the kind of silence that's full of things unspoken. Her robe sleeve brushed against my arm. The fabric was warm, smelled faintly of soap and something floral. Maybe we should light some candles, she said. I followed her into the kitchen. The flashlight beam bounced between us, her shoulder, her wrist, the curve of her neck as she leaned to find the matches. When she struck one, the spark illuminated her face for a heartbeat, orange light, flicker of uncertainty. Here, I said, reaching to help, and our hands met again over the flame. We both froze. The tiny firelight caught in her eyes. She exhaled, slow, careful. You should, I know. But I didn't move. The candlelight between us trembled as if it felt the same tension. Her lips parted like she was about to say something, maybe stop, maybe don't. I couldn't tell. Then her phone buzzed on the counter. The sound snapped the air in two. She stepped back fast, nearly knocking the candle over. "It's probably your dad," she said, too quickly. It wasn't. The screen lit with another name, her sister's. But she didn't pick up. She pressed her hand to her chest like she could steady her heartbeat through her palm. "I can't," she started, but the words never finished. "I know," I said again, quieter this time. The rain pounded harder outside. A flash of lightning filled the room, and for a second I saw her face all conflict and one in fear before the dark swallowed us again. She turned toward me, inches away. The warmth of her breath brushed my jaw. Then she whispered, "We shouldn't." But she didn't move. Neither did I. The house was too quiet after the storm. The kind of quiet that made every movement feel like a secret. She was in the living room again, folding a throw blanket that didn't need folding. Her back was to me, but I could tell she knew I was there. "You didn't sleep," I said. She didn't turn around. "Neither did you." The space between us was small, but it felt impossible. I could smell her shampoo, faint and clean. Her hair was still damp from the shower, a few strands clinging to her neck. "I keep thinking we should talk," she said softly. "About what?" "You know what." Her hands stilled on the fabric. I stepped closer, not enough to touch her, but enough that she could feel the warmth off my skin. When she turned, her eyes looked tired but unguarded, like she'd given up pretending nothing was there. "This isn't fair to anyone," she said. "I know." "Then why do you keep—" She stopped herself. "Why do we keep doing this?" I didn't have an answer. I just looked at her, and she seemed to understand anyway. Her breathing changed, slower, heavier. She stepped back, hit the edge of the couch, and caught herself on the armrest. I moved without thinking, reaching out. My hand brushed hers, steadying her. "Sorry," I said. She shook her head. "No. Don't be." Her voice broke on the last word. She stayed there, hand still in mine. Then, almost under her breath, "I don't remember the last time someone looked at me like that." I could have told her I didn't mean to, but that would have been a lie. Her hand slipped from mine only to find my wrist instead. "You're too young to understand what this would ruin," she said. "Maybe," I said quietly. "But I still understand you." That made her flinch, like I'd said something she'd been desperate and terrified to hear. Her fingers lingered near my shirt sleeve, tracing the edge of the fabric without realizing it. "Don't say things like that," she whispered. "Why not?" "Because I'll start believing them." The air tightened. I reached up, brushed a loose strand of hair from her face. She didn't move, didn't blink. Just watched me, as if even breathing would shatter the moment. "You don't have to be afraid of me," I said. "I'm not afraid of you," she replied. "I'm afraid of what I'll do next." Her voice trembled. My hand was still near her face. She leaned slightly into it, not enough to cross the line, just enough to make it impossible to step back. We stayed like that, inches apart, hearts out of rhythm. Then the front door creaked open. Her eyes widened. She stepped away fast, brushing her hands through her hair like she could erase what almost happened. "Your dad," she breathed. But it wasn't. A neighbor's voice called from the porch, cheerful, harmless. Still, the moment was gone. She exhaled, half relief, half regret. "You should go upstairs," she said, barely above a whisper. And I did. But halfway up, I turned. She was still standing there, one hand over her heart, eyes on the door. And for the first time, she didn't look guilty. She looked afraid of wanting more morning sunlight cut through the kitchen blinds, thin and sharp. The storm had passed, but everything still felt damp, the floor, the air, maybe even us. She was at the counter again, her movements slower than usual. Coffee steamed between us, untouched. "You're quiet," I said. She smiled faintly. "You say that a lot." "Because you are." Her hand lingered on the mug handle, fingers tapping once, twice. "It's easier to stay quiet than say something I can't take back." That line hung there like a dare. I wanted to tell her that last night had changed something, even if nothing had technically happened. But before I could, my phone buzzed on the table. A text from my dad. He talked to her last night. She sounded off. Keep an eye on her. I frowned, reading it again. Did you talk to him? I asked. Her shoulders stiffened. Briefly. Why? He said you sounded upset. She hesitated, just long enough to tell me he was right. He worries too much. I stepped closer, studying her face. There was something new in her eyes, guilt, maybe, or fear. What did you tell him? Nothing. She looked down at the mug. Almost nothing. What does that mean? Her silence said everything. I felt it in my chest before I understood it, a dull ache, not from what she said, but what she didn't. She turned away, voice low. He asked if we've been getting along. I told him we're fine. But he asked if you seemed different around me. My pulse jumped. What did you say? That you've been distracted. I laughed once, sharp, defensive. That's one word for it. Her jaw tightened. Don't what? Make me feel worse than I already do. That hit hard. The air between us felt suddenly smaller, like the room itself wanted us apart. I took a breath, tried to steady my voice. Do you regret it? Last night? She turned then, fast, eyes glinting. Don't make it sound like something happened. I stepped forward. Something did. Even if we didn't stop. Her hand came up between us, trembling. But when I didn't move back, she did. One step. Then another. Until her back met the counter. You don't understand, she whispered. Then help me. Her breath hitched. I can't. Because if I start explaining, I'll start confessing. We stood there, so close the edge of the counter pressed against her hips, so quiet I could hear the tremor in her breathing. The sunlight caught the corner of her mouth as she said, "He's coming home tonight." That single sentence felt like a door slamming shut. I swallowed hard. So what happens now? Her answer came in a whisper, almost a plea, "We try to forget." But as I turned to leave, she reached out, fingers catching my sleeve for a split second, her voice breaking on my name. And in that moment, both of us knew forgetting was no longer possible. Evening settled early, heavy and quiet, as if the house itself was waiting. He was due home in an hour. The thought pressed between us like a wall neither of us could see through. She was in the hallway, hair half pinned, still in the blouse she'd ironed too perfectly. I could tell she was trying to look composed, but her hands betrayed her, smoothing fabric that didn't need smoothing, adjusting buttons that were already straight. You should probably go out, she said without looking at me. Meet friends, clear your head. I don't want to. She turned, and for a moment, her eyes softened, a flash of warmth, gone almost instantly. You make this harder than it already is. I think it's already past hard, I said quietly. That made her exhale long, shaky, like she was letting go of something she'd been holding too tight. Don't say things you can't take back, she whispered. Then let me say the ones I mean. She didn't move as I stepped closer. The space between us was a heartbeat. Her perfume, faint, steady, familiar, pulled at me like a memory I didn't want to end. Last night, when you said you were afraid of what you'd do next, I said. She looked up at me. I remember. I'm not. The silence that followed was louder than thunder. Her hands, trembling slightly, rested at her sides. She didn't step away. When I reached up, my fingers barely touched her arm, a light graze that sent a shiver through both of us. Don't, she said, but it sounded like a request, not a command. Her breath caught when I tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. The back of my hand brushed her cheek. She closed her eyes, just for a moment. I can't do this to him, she said softly. I'm not asking you to. Then what are you asking? I thought about it, about every half-finished moment, every silence we'd filled with everything except truth. For you to stop pretending this doesn't mean something. That broke her. Not loudly, but in the smallest, most human way, her breath hitching, her eyes glistening, her hand finally rising to my chest as if to keep me at a distance and hold me closer all at once. I wish I'd met you first, she said. I could have said 100 things, but none would have been enough. Instead, I stepped closer until we were breathing the same air, every inch between us electric and fragile. Her forehead rested against mine. If we do this, she whispered, we can't go back. I know. For a long moment, neither of us moved, the whole world balanced on the thin edge of that breath. Then she pulled back just slightly, eyes searching mine, and smiled, small, broken, real. Then maybe this is where we stop, she said. Her hand lingered against my chest for one more heartbeat before she turned away. And even as she walked down the hall, I knew the truth, stopping didn't mean ending. It just meant she loved me enough not to begin. It had been a week since that night. A week of practiced distance, quiet mornings, polite conversation, the kind of careful small talk that tried too hard not to mean anything. But silence only hides so much. That afternoon, I found her in the garden, pruning a few dead stems from the rosebush by the fence. The air was warm, thick with the smell of rain-soaked soil. She looked peaceful, almost, until she turned and saw me. Her hand froze mid-motion. You startled me. Sorry, I said. Didn't mean to. She smiled faintly, brushing dirt from her palms. You always say that. I nodded, unsure whether to step closer or stay put. She solved it for me, motioning toward the bench near the wall. You can sit, if you want. I did. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Bees moved lazily over the flowers, the world continuing as if nothing between us had changed. Then she said, You're leaving soon, aren't you? Back to school next week. Good, she said softly. It'll help. Help what? She looked down at the gloves in her lap. Help us remember this for what it was, something real that had nowhere to go. The words landed gently, not cruel, not cold, just honest. I nodded. I don't regret it. I know. She exhaled, and for the first time in days, she looked at me without flinching. Neither do I. The wind shifted, carrying a faint trace of her perfume, the same one that had haunted every room since that storm. She sat beside me, close enough that our knees brushed. The contact was small, but it broke something open, not desire this time, but understanding. You made me feel seen, she said quietly. I didn't realize how long it had been since someone really looked at me. I turned to her. You deserve that every day. Her eyes softened, grateful, sad, a little proud. She reached for my hand, hesitated, then finally took it. Her fingers were warm, trembling slightly. We sat like that, no need for more words, no lies about what came next. After a while, she leaned her head on my shoulder. The weight of it was steady, familiar. Not wrong, just complicated. I'll miss this, I said. I know. The sunlight shifted again, glinting through the leaves, and for a moment everything felt suspended, the noise, the risk, the guilt, replaced by something quieter. Acceptance. When she finally stood, she didn't let go of my hand right away. She just looked down at me, her thumb brushing the back of mine in a slow, tender circle. Take care of yourself, she said. And, don't wait so long to look at someone else like that. I smiled, small, unsteady. I'll try. She leaned down, pressed a soft kiss to my forehead, and whispered, Goodbye, love. And even as she walked back inside, the warmth of her touch stayed, not heavy, not painful, just real. Something that would linger, quietly, for a long time. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?